Folks, hello and welcome to Tavern Chat. I'm your host, Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR. And just a reminder, the contest for the Lanasian Crab Tour closes tomorrow, probably around noon. Then I'll judge the entries we have. I've gotten entries via Facebook IM, via Discord IM, of course, up at tenkarstavern.com. I am still in recovery mode from Friday's procedure. Uh, Listen, I am happy with the results, and I couldn't have asked for a better day for Friday, I guess. But yes, I'm still bandaged up. I think you can actually see. You can still see like bruising if you look at that. Holy crap! I didn't even realize that. You can see bruising underneath that, and I had the same incision made in my crotch. So happy, joy. I'm sure there's one or two out there that are like, yeah, awesome. I'm glad Tenkar got, they went into the crotch, the groin. That's okay. I'll be around for many more years because the scammers and such, uh, real pain in their ass. But in any case, that's not what tonight's about. Tonight's episode, we were gaming with the usual Monday crew, the cast of miscreants, which includes like Joe the Lawyer, Greg Christopher, Tim Schwartz, Rob Conley, Zach. Uh, am I missing somebody? I don't know. Yeah, Tim Schwartz. Um, One of the topics that came up was touching on high level play. We also talked about dungeon design. That's a huge thing I can talk about, and I'll have to get like samples of different dungeons before we get into that. But we talked about high level play, and I know Joe put up He put up a video with his brother, talking about high level play, and I will link to that below. I haven't even listened to it yet or watched it, but I'm sure it's insightful. But my opinions on high level play might not match up with yours. So there's a reason why I'm showing G123, because the early adventures that you found for D&D, or especially AD&D, were converted from tournaments. So why is that important? Well, it was important because it didn't really matter about the continuity from one module in the series to the next. Okay, it didn't have to have this. You weren't going to have the same players, generally speaking, right? You were going to do one adventure, and then the second one came out maybe at the next convention, and maybe some of the same people played it, but they weren't bringing the same characters, or maybe they were playing some of the same characters, but they were all pre-gens. Okay, so that's important, I think, when it comes to high level play. When it's low level play, generic adventures. When I say generic, I don't mean vanilla adventures, but I mean adventures that um, work on the assumption that okay, it's going to be a third level party. We generally know what a third level party, what they're capable of, right? Fifth level party, fifth level party is going to have something like Fireball, right? You know, at, at at third level, the cleric's going to be getting hold person. You know these things are coming into play. You know what your players are going to generally use, right? Fourth level spells, when the characters hit seventh level, the dynamics change. Okay, not hugely amount, but the balance changes and it gets a bit more swingy on how things play out. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important because when you're going to sell commercial adventures, you generally need to go for the lowest common denominator, right? The average party. But as characters get higher in level, there's no average party. That's why all these high level adventures came with pre-gens. Because the assumption somehow was that you're not going to run this with your regular characters. You're going to run this as a one-off or as a series of adventures with the pre-gens. And what's important about these pre-gens is that they weren't locked down with all the magic that most of your PCs would have. A character that makes it to 8th level, ninth level in an average campaign tends to accumulate a decent amount of magic items. That's just part and parcel with the evolution of the game. So, if you look at AD&D, when does name level hit? well, name level generally hits at levels 9, 10, 11. But this is when your character could get an abbey, become the crime lord, become a lord, have their wizard tower. Because there was a built-in assumption that high-level play would be rare. Like your PCs would retire, maybe their henchmen, maybe their offspring, maybe just new characters would start up a new campaign, probably in the same world, same general campaign area, but it would be a new generation. And the uh, semi-retired PCs, and they usually like semi-retired, would come out like when you had like a world-shaking adventure. You bring them out for an adventure or two, then you put them back and you retire them. There's a reason for that because at high-level adventures, once you start hitting like fifth level spells, right, things become real swingy. The power creep gets there. You can start raising the dead. That's a power creep, right? About 14th level, you can do things like limited wish, right? Resurrect. Um, at 12th level, cleric can cast heal, which restore basically all hit points, right? And I know there are these in-game balances that are supposed to, oh, your character will age a year. Did you ever play with that stuff? And any of these balances that are not part of the spell itself, but are campaign balance features, were never effective. And probably, they look good on paper, but it's kind of like, I don't know, the the U.S. budget, right? There's certain things that are on paper, like, oh, well, this balances this out. No, it doesn't. Okay, we certain parts just don't get enforced, right? Well, aging was something that we very really dealt with when we used to play high level adventures. Also, that swinginess means that an adventure that's written for characters levels 8 to 12 that aren't the 8 to 12 level characters that playtested this adventure, well, as soon as a playtest, or at least the ones that are included with it, maybe your players have magic items or access to spells that were unthought of when this adventure was designed. Going to throw off the balance, right? Or maybe they lack spells and magic items that were presupposed in the adventure. Well, maybe they're going to be a total party kill, TPK. So, can you do high level play? Certainly. Certainly. But it takes a lot of work for the DM because my experience with high level play is that you have to basically write or cultivate a pre-written adventure and change it to fit your party, your group. And that takes a lot of work. And still, it's going to be very swingy. If you play the DCC RPG, it's a swingy system. It's just the way it's built. And the power creep is much more. It's steep. You have to level 5 characters in that game are probably the equivalent of level 10 in most OSR systems. So, but again, spells in that are really swingy. You can get something awesome or get an effect that's going to kill your party. So the other problem with high level play is you start getting the spells that, if they don't break the game, they certainly change the game. Once you can do plane walk, right? Once your players can leave this plane and go somewhere else, now you, the GM, got to scramble. So unless it's like, well, you can only cast that spell at the end of a session, so I can then prep for the next session. It's a way to do it, but it's a lot harder. Now, can you start a campaign at a higher level? And I know for a lot of us that's like verboten. Oh no, we always start at first level, maybe second if we're really feeling our oats. But if I was going to run the Giant series, I would say, hey, listen, we're going to run G1, 2, 3. I need everybody give me 8th level characters or give an experience point pool. Everybody gets, I don't know, I'm going to pull a number on my ass, 100,000 experience points. And your class will decide what level you are at. And roll your character, 46, arrange. Now I know you survived this long, so I'll give you total 2 points you can add to your scores. You can do that. And as personally, I would suggest as a DM, you you pick the magic items that your players get and balance them out amongst the PCs. But I think that's an effective way to roll with these adventures because you can balance a party for something that you have actually seen and read. But for your party to get to these levels and then run with a pre-published adventure, you're not going to have a good time. But at the same time, as a GM or a DM, you have to realize high-level play, the ability for you as a GM to control what's going on or have an idea of what's going to happen next becomes very limited. And it's not an easy session to run. Continue a light based on Swords and Wizardry, a simplified version of it. It goes to level 7. Why? Why level 7? Because it gives you just enough to get that 4th level spells where the game starts to get a little funky and it gets a bit more swingy, and that's fine. That is where I find most campaigns tend to end anyway. Maybe your experience is different, but I usually find that with my players, once we start hitting name level, it's time for us to start a new batch of PCs. I'd love to hear your experience on this. I'd love to hear your experience and with watching Joe's video. Yeah, I'll link it below. But I like to get feedback on this one. I think high-level adventures are great for convention play. Again, you're not bringing in your own PC. You're bringing in a PC that's already been curated for the adventure in question. So, folks, we are still in the midst of the world of the pandemic. What does that mean? Well, things are getting better, right? No more mask mandate in schools in New York State or shopping. No more vax mandate to eat at restaurants or go to gyms or yoga studios or movie theaters or any of that crap. But COVID's still there, right? COVID still exists. It's not gone away. It's probably more virulent and less serious, but it can still be a problem. I'm going to say what I always say. Use your common sense. If you're watching this, you're likely an adult. If you're not an adult, well, you're still under the purview of adults, and I'm sure they'll tell you to use your common sense, or they'll use their common sense. Use your common sense. All right, you know your risk factors. You know if you are somebody who is at risk. Right? Take actions accordingly. We know the vaccines don't stop the spread and don't stop you from getting it, but they do seem to make the infection, if you do get it, less intense, less dangerous. So, again, common sense. Use it. Be safe, be well, God bless. Roll those dice, roll them well. Again, thank you for all the good thoughts and PMs I've been getting. And I will be back again tomorrow with more OSR goodness or news or whatever the fuck. All right.